Hello and welcome back to my channel, Emily's Creative Life. In today's video I am using a stencil to do some dry embossing with my Sizzix Big Cake machine, and then I will do some ink blending after I have embossed my piece of cardstock. So I've got this stencil here by Decoart. It's a honeycomb style stencil. And then I've got my Sizzix Big Cake machine here. I just lifted up tab number 2, placed a metal shim down my cutting plate, and then a Spellbinders embossing mat. And then I've got my piece of Cougar 110-pound cardstock. I place my stencil over top of that, and then my other cutting plate. And then when I am happy with the placement of that stencil, I will run that through my machine, and that will make an impression of that stencil into that piece of cardstock. So here you can see that dimension and the impression that that stencil left. And then I got some smudges from my cutting plates because they were not clean, and I used my Xyron adhesive eraser to remove those. I realigned that stencil up in the grooves that were created from the embossing, and then I will flip that over and use some purple tape to adhere that down so that it stays in place as I do my ink blending. For the ink blending, I will be using my Gina inks. I am using wild dandelion and honey mustard and my yellow blender brush. I will be starting with that honey mustard color in the bottom right hand corner and the top left hand corner. And I'll just do a very soft blend, bringing that color up just a little ways. I just wanted to create some depth and some contrast, so I brought in that darker color for there. I clean off my brush on that piece of paper and then bring that wild dandelion in and blend right over top of that honey mustard to brighten it up just a little bit, and then bring those colors up to where it meets in the middle but not a solid color, so it looks like it's mostly white but there is some yellow there, so it looks almost like there's a nice bright shine in the middle of the paper. So here you can see that soft blending and that little bit of dimension that created. And then I will use my tonic guillotine paper trimmer to trim off a 1/4 inch from both sides. I will be placing this on a white card base and wanted to have a little bit of white border surrounding that ink blended panel. So I've got that piece of Cougar cardstock and my EK Tools scoring board. And I score this at 4 1/4 inches to create a landscape style A2 size top folding note card. And I creased it with my Teflon bone folder. I had some ink on my fingers there and didn't want to get it all over my cardstock, so that's why I had my hand like that. I've got some Scotch 3M foam tape that I placed on the back of that panel, and then I adhere that down onto that card base. And then I've got this die set by Momenta. It's a small alphabet die set and some silver glitter cardstock. I will die cut the letters to create the word BE-UTIFUL. So after I got all those die cut, I used my EK Tools tweezers to line that up on my grid mat to make sure they were nice and straight. And then when I'm happy with that placement, I use my purple tape and my craft knife to create a very thin strip of that tape so that I can pick up those letters and adhere them onto my card. I wanted to be able to see the top and the bottom of each of the letters, so that I made sure that I had them lined up on my card. So I went ahead and placed that over top of those letters and then pressed that tape into them to make sure that they were nice and adhered. I will pick it up and then use my Distress Collage Medium in the matte finish and place that on the back of each of the letters to adhere it onto my card. So I've got my T-square ruler here, and I will be adding that portion of the sentiment down with that purple tape. I press it in place and then I will set it aside to dry before removing the tape. And then I've got my stamp positioning tool here and a stamp set by Hero Arts, the color layering rose. I'm using that sentiment, "You're a Beautiful Friend." I will stamp that on a piece of that Cougar cardstock and use my Gina K black onyx ink, and I got a really good impression that very first stamp that I did. So I just stamped it the one time. So when I finished stamping that, I bring in my tonic guillotine paper trimmer once again to trim those down into little sentiment labels. I did not use the word beautiful because I created my own with those die cut letters. I just used the your, a, and friend. And then I've got these two bees that I stamped and heat embossed in black. The bee stamp is from Hampton Art. And then I used my Gina K Wild Dandelion and Sea Glass ink and ink blended on for the body and the wings. And then I fussy cut those out. And I used a black water-based marker to color in the edges of those dies, or the bees, so that they had the black edge to make them look nice and crisp. I used some more of that Scotch 3M foam tape on the back of the bees and the back of those sentiment labels. And after I get all those on there, then I remove the release paper and adhere the bees, one on the bottom left-hand corner and one on the top right-hand corner. So I used my EK Tools tweezers there to make sure that I got that bee where I wanted it. It was hard to see that I had it lined up straight with my finger in the way, and those tweezers made it easy. So then I used those same tweezers to adhere those sentiment labels down, make sure that I had them nice and straight, lined up with that BE-UTIFUL sentiment. And then when I have finished with that, I off-screen added some black sequins to tie it all together. And here you can see that finished card. I love how this one turned out. It was so much fun, so bright and cheery, and such a perfect card. I sent it to a very good friend of mine down in Arizona, and I hope she loves it. But thank you so much for spending this time with me and for watching, and stay tuned for another video hopefully soon. Thank you so much. Bye.